That's you live.
Hello, my name is Hugh Morris. I'm the program leader for forestry and arboriculture and senior lecturer at the SRUC at the Barony campus. And the Barony is the only part of the SRUC where we deliver forestry and arboriculture from, whereas other courses like conservation and wildlife are delivered across a number of different campuses, and even horticulture is Glasgow and Oakridge, and but yeah, forestry historically has been delivered through the Barony. Okay, I'm going to give you a very brief background, and the focus of this uh, small talk here is about higher education. So I just gave a talk about further education an hour ago, and now we're focusing on higher education in forestry. Okay, so why study forestry and arboriculture? So again, a bit like the last time, it's a bit of a background. Firstly, they're well-paid positions now. So financially, there are many well-paid jobs. Now there's a huge demand for people in the industry across both forestry and arboriculture. So you also have a safe job and a job for life. Okay, and these are really important aspects of this industry. They are two big industries. So forestry has the Chartered Institute of Forestry representing it, and arboriculture has the Chartered Institute of Arboriculture. So they are very large recognized industries across the United Kingdom. And of course, if you want to work abroad in Germany or wherever, Australia, it's a kind of job. Once you have the qualifications, you can work anywhere in the world. So that's another reason to study forestry and arboriculture. Okay. And also we have a climate change crisis. Okay. And we also have a biodiversity crisis. In fact, we call it now the sixth great extinction and the loss of species, especially in the rainforest, but not just in the rainforest, even in Scotland, we have this biodiversity loss, especially among the invertebrates, your beetles and butterflies and everything else along. And not so much the trees, because we don't have that many species of trees here. So we have in the United Kingdom only 60 species in total. And so not that many. But the Caledonian forests, for instance, of Scotland used to be throughout the whole west coast. Now they're really fragmented in small patches, which needs to be restored. So we need to plant a lot more trees. And with climate change, you can see there's a map here of Scotland. At the moment, we have 18% of Scotland covered in forests and woodlands, including urban forests, okay? And we want to get that up to 22%, but it's still way below the average in Europe, which is at 35%. And I say that's the average. So places like Sweden and Finland are up at around 70%, and places as well like Japan, outside of Europe, 70%, very high in America too. And so we are at critically low levels of trees. And if we want to capture more carbon dioxide in the future, we have to plant a lot more trees and a lot more diversity in our tree planting. So at the moment, it's about 70% conifers. A lot of those are plantations, but we need to be focusing on more broadleaf trees, more oaks, more beech trees, more sycamores. You heard about the famous sycamore that was just felled there. Yes, and on the Hadrian Wall. Well, we need to plant more sycamore as well. Okay, and we need to get the cover up to 22, 23% in the next 10 years. Okay, so that's the big challenge. And one thing is the difference between forestry and arboriculture. Forestry is the focus on woodlands and forests, okay? throughout. This is where you have large forest. Typically means that there's very little light getting through the canopy. The trees are very close together, and they could be plantation forests. So it's like a big crop of Sitka spruce, for instance, or a large wild broadleaf forest. Unfortunately, our ancient forests are only at 2% currently, and at one time they were as high as 85%, and that was about 3000 BC. So there's been huge change in our land use since then. Okay, so more planting of trees. Arboriculture is the science and management and practice of trees in mostly urban areas, but it's a focus on the individual trees, whereas urban forestry is a bit like forestry. It's the focus of groups of trees in an urban setting, such as a city. Go to Glasgow, go to Edinburgh, look at the big parks. It's the management of those trees, okay? So again, very briefly, we deliver education all the way from a level 4 SEQF to a level 8, okay? A level 4 is our kind of pre-apprenticeships to countryside skills, a kind of a very basic introduction to land use, and all the way up to SEQF level 8, which is our HND program in forestry. I will be bringing in an HNC and an HND program in urban forestry and arboriculture, but it won't be next year, it will be the following year, okay? So that's all in the pipeline, as well as a bachelor honors degree in forestry and urban forestry. So you'll be able to do common units, and then you'll break away into studying one or the other in the second year, okay? Whether you think you'll be a future arboriculturist with a strong scientific underpinning, or a future forester with a strong scientific underpinning. I myself am a forest scientist, and I did my PhD in wood anatomy. I used to be a tree surgeon, so I did all the climbing, did all the practice, got all the tickets, and I moved all the way up the ladder to PhD, and then I did a few postdocs, Switzerland and Germany, and now I'm back here running the program. Okay, so as I've covered this, the further education side on the last talk, I'm actually going to go straight to advanced cert, okay? And the reason I'm going to touch upon this again is there are many of you who want to study higher education. However, higher education, you will not get as many tickets as you will an advanced certificate. I mean practical tickets. So some of you who may wish to come on to higher education may want to start and do the advanced cert, which is just 1 year. It's a very good background in forestry and arboriculture, and then you get to decide whether arboriculture is more my thing or forestry is more my thing. Okay, in advanced cert, arboriculture is more the climbing of trees, as an arborist, a climbing arborist, and pruning cuts, all of that kind of thing, managing and utility lines, working in parks, stately homes, arboreta, which is the kind of a collection of trees, and or advanced certificate in forestry, which is your operating big machinery. Okay, so your forwarders and harvesters. Mostly that's what differentiates those. If you come straight on to higher education, you'll start at the HNC, and we will just go on to that now. So this is the progression, okay? And you can either come on from the advanced certificate, sometimes even from the certificate, and skip the advanced cert, or you could simply come in from outside with a good forestry background. Maybe you've even studied forestry or arboriculture elsewhere in another institute, and you want to transfer to us from their further education institutes. And yes, it's 1 year long. Okay, so like the advanced certificate, it's a tertiary system. You can kind of jump in and jump out. So this is 1 year long. It's running from September until just the end of May into June time. And it's very much the beginning of a kind of the academic side to forestry, as opposed to mostly practical. However, if you want to get your tickets, we can arrange that too. So if you want to do the academic side, which will be 3 days a week, and then you decide, oh, actually, I want to do chainsaw maintenance and cross cutting. I don't have that. Or I would like to do a bit of tree climbing, or I would like, we will be able to cater for that. You may have to pay for aspects of it, but we will do it at a kind of a very affordable rate. Okay, so this is the HNC in forestry. So it's delivered full time. It's a level 6. Okay, as I said before, it's a 1 year length, and it comprises of 15 units. Now, it comprises of 15 units. You don't need 15 to get your HNC, you just need 13. But if you want to progress onto the HND, you will need the 15 units, so the complete amount of units. Okay, there's a lot of project-based work, assessments, and mostly assessments are a kind of based on a pass or fail, so it's not an actual percentage mark. If it meets all the criteria, it's a pass, and it's much more advanced. So for instance, the tree identification, you will have to deliver a large portfolio and of all the Latin names, and you'll be looking at 60 to 80 species, whereas in the advanced search, you're only looking at a maximum of 20 to 30 species. Okay, so everything's at a slightly higher level, as you would expect, because it's a level 7. Okay, you have to enter. You can come in as a mature student. So if you have, for instance, a military background and you're retiring from the military, you're a vet, then of course you can join us on this course. If you have some industry experience in forestry, it's preferable. However, as a mature student, you don't require it for this year. For instance, we have 2 chefs on the course, and they didn't do much tree-related work up until this point, and they're doing perfectly fine so far. Okay, and they're all coming from different backgrounds, and there's an age group from 18 all the way to in their 50s this year. Okay, so it's very diverse. Okay, of course, we are trying to get more women onto the course. I think it's really have to demonstrate that this course is very much for women. It's very, obviously, you can do all the chainsaw work. It's very scientific, and it's all about biodiversity and conservation. And it's not just looking at the economic and the kind of the value, the monetary value of trees, okay, and the volume of trees, and it's much more than that. Okay, it's working with communities and stakeholders and woodlands for people, for recreation, and or you could go on like myself and become a future forest scientist. Okay, so we'll go on and we'll talk a little bit about some of the units or modules you'll be looking at. So forest science, I teach that myself, and it's crucial that you have a strong scientific background. It's fundamental, and it's the underpinning of every aspect of forestry is science. And it's basically, it's not just about the how you do it, it's all about the why you do it. Why do you space oak trees so closely when you're planting them? Why, you have to really think about it, and that's a scientific underpinning. Okay, somebody carried out those scientific studies at one time, and then it's been put into practice. Okay, then we have forest harvesting at a much higher level. Okay, so this is moving away from the machinery and the driving. It's now we're into the management of forests. Okay, and then we have forest mensuration and thinning control, again at a much higher level. Timber sales, transportation, woodland nursery practice. Okay, that's very much also our arboricultural is included there, but it's the also disease management in nurseries, all of that, bringing trees on from seed to seedlings and then being planted out. And as you probably know, there are these big rewilding campaigns at the moment. It's quite a loose term, I know, so it's hard to define, but essentially it's either planting seeds directly into the landscape or planting seedlings, especially up in Inverness in the north of Scotland. It's rewilding very large areas of land to bring it back to its original state, okay? And this is also a really important thing about climate change in the future and increasing biodiversity. So the HND now, so if you've completed the HNC, of course, there are jobs. You can simply jump out at that level, work in industry for a couple of years and come back to the HND, or you could decide, actually, I'm going to keep going. I'm doing a bit of work experience. I might as well keep going. I'm in the frame of mind. I'm thinking academically now, and I'm going to keep going and do the two full years and get my HND. Okay, so both options are available to you. I've just made it part-time for the first time this year, so you could work. We have 3 students this year who came in at the HND, so they didn't start the HNC. They had done the HNC elsewhere. 2 women and a guy, and yeah, they've joined us and they are working full-time and doing the course part-time, and then also through distance learning. Okay, so there are certain units, modules that can be done completely via the safety of your own home. And other units, you will have to come in and do it, like pests and diseases, for instance, because I want to be able to bring you out, looking at the pests, looking at the trees, looking at the fungi, and really get a kind of a feel for it. And these kind of things, it's very hard to do through distance learning, to really get into the nature. So H&D, some of the units, we have forest policy and law. Of course, that's crucial. I'm teaching that aspect, tree law, and it's all about preservation orders. You heard about that sycamore that was felled there on the Hadrian Wall, Northumberland. If we had a tree preservation order on it, if we could preserve these trees that are ancient, that need protection, then we'd be in a much better, it would be a kind of a crime against nature, and you could be imprisoned for that, or you get a very large penalty or fine. But that particular tree, unfortunately, did not have a tree preservation order, although it was in a conservation site. Okay, forest protection, this is all your pests and diseases. I'm teaching that this year, and it runs over two semesters or 2 terms, and it's all about fire protection, pests and diseases, abiotic, biotic stresses. And then we go on to the financial side, which is very important, especially for the economical side of forestry. And forest design, woodland ecology, which is crucial. I brought in woody plant biology, which is a level up from the forest science, which you would study in the HNC. So it's the next level of woody plant biology. So it's a lot of microscopy work, looking at cell structures, wood anatomy, some physiology there, and but very much a lab-based science. And then, of course, progression from your HND is direct into the employment. Forest supervisors, harvesting supervisor, tree officers, forest managers, and also working in arboreta and working in big estates. And don't forget, you can top up with a 2-year degree, and hopefully by the time you finish, and I hope you do join us next year, that we will have a degree in place for those who want to progress even further. Okay, I will leave it at that, and thank you very much for listening, and I'm here for your questions, and hopefully see you next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hugh. Right, I'll just go through the questions with you. The first question is, are these qualifications recognised all over the world?
Let me just hold on now. Here you are. The quick answer is yes, they are. So actually, the qualifications you get, talking about firstly the arboricultural tickets that you get, whether that's tree climbing or whether that's more in the advanced certificate level, we have the highest standards of arboriculture and forestry at that level. They are recognized absolutely everywhere as being the highest standards, okay, that you can attain. Okay, that's more the practical side. From the academic side, absolutely, HNC and HND. Of course, in the rest of England, you have this foundation degree, which I used to teach on for years, and but it's the exact same as the foundation degree. Foundation degree may prepare you a little bit more for the degree. However, when I'm teaching it, I'm preparing everybody for the degree, and they are recognized around the world, absolutely.
Fantastic. Another question that we have here is, can I do this course as an older student? Now, I know you touched on that a little bit, but if you could elaborate on an older student.
There is no age. Absolutely, I have taught students of all ages, and they gain as much as anybody else from the course. Some will do the course simply because they may have a woodland or something that they want to manage. They already have it. They're retired. They've spent their life already working in a job. I have one guy in the advanced certificate actually, and he's a geneticist. Spent his whole life working in a lab. He already had a PhD, and now he wants to work outdoors. So he wanted a complete change of life, and you know, and why not? A life in the outdoors. And it's not just the outdoors. You can have an indoor job, work outdoors, or you can have it, as most people want, a bit of both. Work at the office and then you're outside for the next day.
Thank you. So, right, another question is this course only available at Barony?
No, the UHI delivered this as well. If you happen to be, it's only available at the Barony for the SRUC. Okay, but the SRUC campuses are based all around Scotland. However, if you are from the north of Scotland, obviously I'd love you to come and study at the Barony, but you can also study at the UHI, which is the forest school based up in Inverness. Okay, so geographically, if it doesn't suit you to come to the Barony, by all means, they have also a great team there, and they will look after you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Or next England, question. Or England if you want.
Next question is, how much of the HNC is outdoors and practical?
I think most of the HNC is, I would say, as a percentage, 80% is the indoor, is the academic classroom based, 20% site visits, overnight, working on the forest, observations is the outdoor side. But it's roughly the reverse of the FE, further education.
Okay, thank you.
The opposite.
Last question was, what are the benefits of a modern apprenticeship?
What are the benefits of the modern apprenticeship?
Over a modern apprenticeship?
Oh, well, it's just at a much higher level. The modern apprenticeship is a level 5 and 6. You work with an employer, you come in for block weeks. However, having said that, we are going to bring in the tech forestry, which is a new modern apprenticeship up to degree level. I may not be able to bring it in the next academic year. We will try, but most likely it will be for the following one. Okay, so that would be where you're working with the employer, but you will be educated up to a level 8 qualification. So that would be similar to our HE. Yeah.
Fantastic. And that was the last of the questions.
Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it.
Is that you finished?
Yeah, I thought I was supposed to stay on. Where are the other? Oh, Jesus, I'm leaving now. Bye.